Today we want to talk about transitions, and we want to talk about attending, and we want to talk about sitting still, and we want to talk about learning. We want to talk about processing sensory inputs. There's lots that needs to be in place for the students in our lives to be able to have an enjoyable school experience without accommodations. It's there's too much to talk about in this one webinar. We have a webinar on handwriting. We've got a webinar on sensory processing. We've got a webinar on attention span. So I'll invite you to watch those as well to complement this particular one. What makes this webinar particularly interesting and exciting to us is that we have families online as well as co-presenters that are going to share their experiences and explain, instead of us telling you what we've done to help them, they're going to tell you what we've done to help them in those situations. Before we start, I want to talk to you about our schools program, because we're making a big push to bring enrichment and brain plasticity into schools. And we have an app that special educators and therapists can use to do enrichment protocols with the students in groups or one-on-one, and it's very exciting. So if you work in a school, or if you want your children to do sensory enrichment at school, reach out to me or send an email to schools@mentability.com or call me at 801-872-3971. That's my direct line. Okay, so about the webinar. We're going to go through all of the brain functions that are needed to work well in order to allow any child with or without a formal diagnosis to be comfortable, engaged in learning in a typical classroom. Obviously, for full results, you need the full therapy. But again, if you can follow all of the advice that Claudie gives you in all the webinars, you should be able to make a big difference in the life of the students in your life. I remember a webinar we did a few months back on sleep, and there's tons of advice there. And a mom called and said, I tried all the things you said. I'm already doing half of them, and it's not working. So we did a one-on-one session with her, and we walked through all of the advice, and she did it exactly as Claudie said. And within days, the kids started to sleep. So do what we share with you, is what I'm trying to say. So Claudie, the floor is all yours.
All right. So yes, it is a very important time in the life of your kid and in the life of your family. Something happens, the kid leaves the home and is going to be in a new setting. Even for children who were at school the last 2 years, they did school in front of a screen. So what really was missing is certainly the sensory aspects of learning. So we want to have a healthy brain in order to learn well, and also in order to sit long enough. And these on the screen are the things that are going to happen. The more healthy your child's brain is, the better those things are going to happen. I'm particularly interested today about sharing with attention span and learning, simply because our parents here have experiences that they can share, but also very often you as parent, you tell us, well, that's what I want. Really, I'm not really worried about the rest. Well, sensory processing will be your key to attention span and learning. So we are going to talk about those. So how do we have a healthy brain, and how can we improve those situations where your child will not sit down more than 10 seconds or 5 seconds? The first step that you want, and even though it's not systematically the first thing you think about, well, we're going to have to increase dopamine flow, dopamine function, and dopamine production. So For those who come often enough to our webinar, this is a review. Dopamine, what is it? It's one of the messengers in the brain. When you look on the picture here, you see little buds and little branches. This is how neurons communicate. They send branches out, and those branches come very near. They don't attach. They seem like they are very attached to the others, but they are only very close. And the communication, the messages are transferred via dopamine. We'll talk about another one later. So what does dopamine do for you and for your child? Control of movement. That's about feeling antsy, having to move something in your body. That's an issue of dopamine function. Memory, well, sleep and mood. You want to be in a good mood and be motivated. If you are able to help your child improve dopamine production and function, this is all the benefits you will see. And you will for certain see them happen. And you will get the last in the list, which is the attention span that you want to work on, so that school time is fun. But school time cannot be of any interest if we do not have ability to control our posture, ability to remember, and if we sleep well the night after and even the night before and are in a good mood. So those minuscule, very tiny little messengers go from one cell to the next, give a message, these messages that you see on the screen, and then go back to the cell. What happens sometimes in our kids is this dopamine is not going fast enough. It doesn't come back at the right place. It goes back to a different receptors. So the next time you need it, well, you can't really find it. The brain is this magical organ that can get more of everything that's needed. It is possible naturally to increase dopamine. And I tend to say that often. It's important. There is no medication you can take by mouth that will improve your dopamine function. You can take something that will, for the day, accelerate the function. It does not fix it. The only way to improve that is using the senses the way nature intended. So maybe we're going to talk about serotonin. Are we?
The next slide is your favorite one that shows what happens when you combine smell and
Oh,
touch. The study.
yes. How did we decide at Mendability that it was important to do those sensory activity? Because of research. All our exercises are about what has been found and how we can implement it. In that case, very old research, 30 years old, 50 years old research has tried what happens to the brain, for example, when you smell something lovely. It can be the scent of your choice, it can be cookie, it can be chocolate, or it can be a fruit. Instantly, you have suddenly 200% of your dopamine. Like it moves up instantly to that level. We can obtain the same with touch, which we don't use right away with our kids on the spectrum because they often don't enjoy a lot soft touch at first. So smelling, for sure, smelling several times a day, and combining it. We can combine smell with any pleasurable sensory. So we can associate it to touch when the kids love it, and we call it the gentle claw and smell. And as soon as you pair two pleasurable sensory activity, now you get 400% in the moment. And the duration of that increase is about 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. Usually in the past, as you can see on the picture, the studies were done on the animal model because we have to admit that we are mammalian and we respond the same way. But smelling is so easy to do that we introduce it with the children right away. maybe, I don't know if these are videos that we can see the children enjoy,
They are,
but
yeah. I'll
okay,
start playing. Do you want to? I'll play
yeah,
them now.
start them on. Those children, look at the little girl. She took the smell from Papa and just smells with absolutely great pleasure. And he doesn't know, should she be smelling that long? He has been starting the therapy just a little while in New Delhi. And you will always see that. At first, maybe your little kid is going to be cautious. What is that new thing? But very quickly, you will see the pleasure and how you do not have to make any effort. So that is a very easy tool to increase attention span, control of movement, and so short, and it costs nothing, and there are no side effects. So we are going to be smelling, we are going to be doing soft touch, we are going to have maybe interesting object to manipulate when the child is, for example, in the car. But we also want to help the entire brain. And once we help dopamine, things are really great. Then we need to help other messengers in the brain, don't we, Kim?
We talk about serotonin a bit later.
Oh,
Did
I
you want-
was
you
so
want-
willing. I was so ready to
Did you want to ask Petra or Mary?
Well, yes, I do want to ask Mary. I was so blessed to work really personally with this wonderful lady who takes care of the little boy. And tell us, Mary, how was he initially when you first brought the smell to his nose? Did he take it right away, or did he sort of push you away? What happened?
He was, I take care of my grandson who is 3 years old. And when we first started, he really was very hesitant. And also, even if I held it to his nose, it was, he didn't really know how to smell. And so we had to work at it a little bit. Before he finally, would take a breath and smell the smell.
Mm-hmm. And did you try several, or did you stay? Okay, we're going to try on that one because it's a familiar. Like you live in a place with lots of sun, so probably like beautiful fruit. So did you take one in particular, or did you try a few?
He loves the sweet smelling fruit. He loves orange. He loves lemon. He loves apple. Right now it's fall, so we're starting pumpkin. But he loves the food smells seem to be his preferences.
That's great. We want those.
We just got a question in the box during the webinar, and somebody asked which kind of smells work best. So
yeah, well, there is now research about what some smells do. There are legends, and people say to each other, maybe this or this does wonders. But until that research, which is about 2 years old, I would say just pick something that your child likes. However, now that there is research, we can absolutely say that lemon, orange, lavender, and vanilla are relaxing. So you can offer that to the child. And usually they are very prone to accept those because they are sort of familiar. But lavender is relaxing, for example, in the bath. Don't put essential oil of orange in the bath. It is not pleasant to the skin, but lavender will do wonders. And having a drop on the shoulder when they go to school, or under the pillow for those who do the bedtime routine with us. So those smells are wonderful. There is more. And in fact, I think we may mention it somewhere during the webinar, which is incredible studies done on the impact of lemon. And I'll tell you what they did to people, those scientists. They put people in a functional MRI machine, this thing that makes so much noise and takes picture of the brain. And they came softly. They didn't tell the people. They put a huge ice pack on one of their arms. This caused tremendous stress. And they measured the cortisol level in the saliva. Cortisol is the marker of stress. Then, after that, a few seconds later, they puffed lemon scent inside the machine so the people would smell lemon. They measured instantly the cortisol level in saliva. It was down to 0. So they continued those studies, and they are studies on people, so we can absolutely try it. Lemon for you when you're getting your child ready, and we'll talk about it later, and lemon for your kid who is starting school and starting today. So definitely opt for lemon for all the good reasons we have now from science. And strawberry is one of our favorite as well. It has been shown that it travels very fast towards the amygdala. Like you have the olfactory bulb behind the nose, and right near it is the amygdala, where all the emotions sort of settle and sometimes go a little bit awry. So lemon, strawberry, lavender, vanilla, those are really recommended because we know the good stuff they are going to do.
Awesome, thanks. I just reached for the lemon scent I have on my desk, and I just got a couple of whiffs.
Lucky you, and I'm done with mine. Okay, so let's talk about learning. We spoke a little bit about attention span. We have a way to help the child. It's a daily thing, and we're going to do it. Now, if you look at those wonderful pictures, we took them from one of my mentors, Mark Rosenzweig, who is one of the first to have really explained the benefits of sensory enrichment on the brain. So the first picture, they are real neurons that they took a picture of, like that would be a typical brain, typical neurons. They are absolutely okay. The middle picture is 3 months later of environmental enrichment on the animal model. They had a great life, music and smells, and really beautiful. They continued the experiment, and now you can see how the brain has evolved, developed those basic neurons, multiplied their branches, they expanded, and guess what? There is space in the brain for all of that. This is what will happen to your brain and to the child's brain. The whole family benefits from environmental enrichment and sensory enrichment. So we want to look at that because learning is about changing your brain. If your brain does not change when you work on remembering new facts, then these new facts go. They don't stay with you. There needs to be new growth of new connections. And in order to do that, we'll talk about the tools that the school can use and the home and the mom can use. So learning is changing how you are, how you react to the environment. And you can see the children paying more attention to facts or things around them and bringing back information from the school. So learning can be helped by simply improving the environment of the child in the home, or by the way we are teaching the children. We have quite a few exercises in which we force the brain to create new connections. One example, I like the picture that there are more details, and it's really a crazy activity for the little boy there. We are asking him to remember what color would go with what smell, with what object, with what picture, and with what sound. That never happens in life. You do not have a texture that goes with a smell. We don't do that. We may have a color if we remember the fruit, but we don't either have a sound for a smell, right? So because it does not exist, we create those activities. We do them every day. And that's the treasure that develops for your child. New connections grow without effort, really. The child is going to look at those and smell and listen every day. If you can do that activity twice a day, it's even better. And gradually, we are building tools for learning. We change the brain so that it can change even better when the child goes to school. So combining sensory information to the facts that you are teaching, and we have what we call the multisensory alphabet, in which we give the child different tools to learn the sounds of the letters, not just an arbitrary sign or cryptogram or drawing. When it's the first time, the kid cannot really remember. Kids remember the alphabet if you sing it, because it's carried on with music. Otherwise, if you show a letter to the kid and try to rehearse and rehearse for days, very few kids are able to remember. As soon as you associate this information to a smell and a picture and something to touch, it is anchored in his brain or in her brain for life. So that's one of the secrets to help your child learn. And here we go. We can see that it is happening, smelling and then figuring, okay, what is the fruit or the vegetable that is smelling like that? And if I can say the name, then I can remember the sound of the first letter. It is very short activity that you can do every day for your child. Even when they are able to read, you may find that it is very helpful to anchor the sounds of the word out of the meaning, to reinforce the ability to read and gather those sounds so they get a meaning. So as you can see on this video, it's very, very simple. All our activities are very simple. And I'd like to have the opinion of Petra. Petra did the therapy quite a long time ago. Now her son is so tall and so handsome. He was really cute when he was doing the first steps in mendability. Did you remember doing this exercise, Petra? And in general, when you were combining sensory information, how did Alec react? Like, was he surprised? Was he interested? How did that go?
Yeah, I do remember these, and he really liked it. So this is something that he really engaged with. Especially, he loves letters and he loves numbers and all of that. And he also, because of you, he loves scents and he loves smelling, and that is so calming for him, and he just gravitates to it on his own. And so doing these exercises were so great because he combined a letter with a smell, and he almost always got them correct. Rarely did he not. So he really engaged with this. And sometimes with the ones where it was the color and the picture and the item and the sound, once in a while he wouldn't get those quite as readily, but he learned to, and he always enjoyed it, and it definitely was beneficial. Every time we would do a MAPS session after like the 2-week period, I could always see improvement with Alec. And sometimes we would go sporadic with doing it, and then we would end up taking a little break because life got in the way. But every time we would come back to MAPS, he just excelled, and I could see the benefit in other parts.
Wonderful. And now that he is a young adult, does he still like to smell things? Like if you go to the market, does he pick up things and smell them, or is it gone? I'm not sure my question was clear. So Petra, my question is, now that he go for it.
Smells every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 16 years old. And so we still do the MAPS exercises, and at this point he chooses which ones because you give the options. So we watch the videos and he chooses which ones. He loves doing them. He wants to do them every day, and it makes him happy. And he does gravitate to different smells. And he loves vanilla and strawberry. And we're gonna do lemon more. So
Yeah, now that we know, right? So long ago, we did not yet know about those. Oh, well, that's wonderful to know that it stays. Like children just learn gradually to enjoy, they wait for it. I have little kids going to the box, bringing it to mom when they feel a bit tense, and another little girl who takes the smell of strawberry with herself at school without no one telling her or advising. She knows it's going to be good for her. So going to school is a new thing for every child for the last 2 years, no school. So they are going to stay calm. They are going to stay at their chair as long as possible, because you are going to start engaging their senses in a way that the brain is comfortable. The brain is in a situation where it's ready to learn. So staying calm is sometimes a little more difficult than being calm as soon as you arrive. But I would say start the day well. Do not rush. I don't think I know one mother on the planet who has more than one child, and even then, who is not rushed by life. You have so much to do. So I would say, okay, how about you choose your battles and don't raise your voice. You all know that. As soon as you start speaking a little louder, your child is taking a step back and going slower, doing the things. So, yeah, you agree, Kim? You've seen that in your home?
Yep.
So, few things that are simple is prepare the lunch the day before and get the clothes ready the day before. But really, the secret is speak softly and stay calm yourself. And if you can't, fake it. So, in order to be calm, you need the serotonin I was telling you about, which is the second crucial messenger in the brain. With Mendability, we really talk about dopamine and serotonin a lot, simply because they are increased by using sensory enrichment and sensory information. Look at all what is dealt with by serotonin. Unfortunately, we know that children on the spectrum, children with Down syndrome, and we have different other conditions with other names like OCD, those kids with so much anxiety, they don't produce enough serotonin by birth. Nobody knows why. We just know they don't produce enough. So when you have a child who has difficulty with sensory processing, you know it's about serotonin. Let's work at making it better. The child cannot sleep, doesn't feed properly, is very, very anxious. Then you have the target. You want to work on improving serotonin. The other part of serotonin that is essential is it is the key to help dopamine start working. So it's kind of unfair. The child who does not produce enough serotonin will have a poor dopamine function. So we can help with that. But it's exactly the same place of job, we can say, for serotonin and dopamine. They go at the end of the neuron, they send their message to the neuron just across, and then come back. And in the same way I said that for dopamine, there is no medication to improve serotonin function and production in the brain. There are medications that are helpful for a few hours, but nothing that will make it better for life. However, we can do that. Again, thanks to the the brain being ready to change and improve, we can help the kid by increasing serotonin using the senses. I mentioned one when we were looking at the graph and the increase that is measurable in the brain with the sense of smell and soft touch. Soft touch is one of the ways, and it is very delicate. It is just about barely touching. And I know that someone on the team, Kent, often tells me that he tells parents it's like a little bit heavier than a fly walking on your arm. So it's really light touch. If your child is too sensitive to light touch for now, you can have music, orchestral music. It can be any genre as long as you have many instruments playing the same thing. This simple experience, just being in the room and music is playing, increases serotonin and dopamine together at a very important level. It is so powerful that scientists say that it is the highest level of pleasure for humans, really listening to music. So that's an easy one. You play music when you prepare for going to school, you play music in the car, and you maybe invite the teacher to play music as the kids are coming into the room, to just cover the huffle and all the noises that come on, like lunchbox that fall and coats and everything. Let's have music to make that a little less invasive and help the kid be calm. So we know enough about serotonin. I know that this little boy that you were telling us, Mary, has really benefited from the serotonin exercises. However, you had to use music more than touch because he is still not favoring touch, in particular on hands. That's every person is different, but he loves music. Tell us, what do you play for him and how long can he stay listening, Mary?
Well, his absolute favorite is actually Fantasia, which is a movie with orchestral music. And he absolutely loves it. You had recommended that, and we watch that about daily. But we play different on YouTube, different symphonies that he loves. Canon and D majors, Pachelbel. He just, we dance to that together. We have fun with that. So the music really allows me to be able to touch his hands. He lets me touch other parts of him. I can massage his feet. I can stroke his hair. I can do a bear claw on his back. But his hands, he's not very fond of me touching. He usually has something in them. But the music allows him to let go a little bit and let me touch his hands.
Yeah, and you were kind enough to share that with me, and I can testify that this little boy adores the music, really. So I am giving you ideas to make your child's life much better at school and at home, but we are on school attention span. So we have more dopamine, more serotonin, and sensory processing is really your way to get into learning. Every information that is given to your child, even if it is completely arbitrary, like the alphabet, is coming through one of the senses, right? At least two. We have vision and we have auditory. They are, unfortunately, the areas where the child is pretty good and sort of already grown all the connections needed to process a sound and to process a visual information. Because we spoke about the fantastic visual system of kids on the spectrum. So what I recommend is to add one information that has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you're presenting. Let's say you are talking about how to grow tomatoes or tomatoes, whichever you want. You want to grow them, you have seed, you have a pot. Okay, how about bringing a few tomatoes and branches? Someone told me today, it's a mom in California where the sun is shining. She never smelt leaves of tomatoes. That is a crime, I think. You definitely need, when you go shopping, pick those tomatoes that still have a little branch or leaf. The smell is amazing. Give the leaf to all the children as you are teaching about growing the vegetable or the fruit. There's a fight on that. Let's not open it. So the kid is learning about the seeds, and we need water. If you give only a visual and an auditory information, it may stay. If you add a scent of smell, it will stay. The child will not forget. So it can be absolutely adapted to any type of learning. Any fact can be pampered, decorated with sensory information that is simply associated for the fun of the day. That will be fantastic for children learning things at home and for the kids at school. Add a sensory information that will attach all the facts together, and the brain will not forget them.
I skipped the video about what sensory overload feels like, or to keep it, because I'm aware of time.
Yes. Were we able to reach Carla? We were hoping to have a mom of a
Nope.
teenager. Well, I will speak for her.
Carla.
Because I've had the pleasure to work with her for a while. And when her son started, he was about 6 years old. He was unable to focus. He had the most difficulty with attention span. He wanted, for sure, he wanted to learn. He wanted to have friends. But all of that was stopped by the way he was processing his environment. After quite a while of therapy, very steadily, every day, he gradually passed all the exams at school and moved from grade to grade, is now in the right grade. He has tons of friends. And, well, tons is maybe excessive. He has friends and he enjoys life. So, of course, he's a teenager, so maybe mom has to remind him to do things twice or 3 times, but he finishes his homework and he doesn't complain that life is really miserable. So you want, again, as this mom that I'm talking about, to add, when the child is learning, one sensory information that is pleasurable and doesn't have really a link to what is being learned, but will sort of make it feel good and increase both serotonin and dopamine. Okay, I really love this video. I did not know the little boy on the left. You want attention span when you do the exercises. So we have an actor on the right-hand side who's going to do a perfect job. And then we have the real little boy. So go for it, Kim. Show us that video.
Okay.
Yeah, the actor doesn't need to move. He does it perfect. Look at this little boy. It's so cute. Oh dear. I have a hand. Wow. I have 2. And even though the multi-tetrapath, that is a line of different textures, very interesting, is in the tactile way very, very fascinating, the kid suddenly discovered that his hands were more interesting. So how to capture this kind of interest that he had, suddenly fascination, Well, it's all about working first on giving him those tools for attention. Unfortunately, we cannot be stronger than an interesting information for children. If a bird suddenly sits on the window, all the children are going to look at the bird. It's a new information. There is movement. It's very cute. You have to accept that fact. They will not be listening to mathematics for that moment. But you can, if you look at the children in your classroom and realize what is capturing their interest, use it. Who knows, maybe bringing a bird and teaching how many seeds he needs in the day might be a great mathematics lesson. So, following instruction, that's one of your dreams, one of your hopes, and you want to not have to tell your child 200 times, maybe 100 times, or okay, let's say one time and he does it right away. And I want to share here the experience of a mom who could not be with us today. She has 2 daughters, and they started 3 months ago only with the therapy. And those girls were so busy with being miserable and trying to make each other miserable as well. That was their focus. Gradually, through smelling, through soft touch, through the association of sensory processing information, they suddenly started not only to listen to instruction, to pay attention, but now they are at a point where they initiate doing the chores or the task before the instruction is completely finished. So that will happen for all of your kids. You need the new pathways to anchor the information. Okay, I need to go clean the bathroom. And maybe you have set it on a tone that is sufficient, but other things are keeping his attention or her attention span. So by working every day at improving dopamine and serotonin and helping your child associate information of the environment, then this child is able to follow an instruction and know how to sort of put on the right scale what has to be done now and what I want to be doing right now. That's very different most of the time.
There's a question in the Q&A box that I think is
Okay.
relevant here. It says, my son wants to put everything in his mouth, including small objects. What can I do to prevent mouthing during school? I thought that it could go with following instructions. How do you give instructions to a kid who is dying to do something or dying not to do something?
Well, if it is to a point where it's an obsession and the child is going to do it and is going to have a fit if you prevent it, I would go to that kid and help his brain settle down and come back to the level where paying attention to the classroom is possible. We have a wonderful protocol for that I like to share often with families. It's called Strawberry and Ice. And the idea, you don't always have ice in the classroom. You can have just a cloth and wet it. Wrap or wipe his hands with it or her hands with it as you are having him smell strawberry. I mentioned earlier, if you remember, that strawberry is very close as it's circulating through the nose, the olfactory bulb, reaches the amygdala and is able to settle. A child who is obsessive with anything that is sometimes not okay to do is anxious. And sometimes kids are anxious at school. They want to do good, and there are so many children, sometimes a lot of adults as well. So this protocol sort of takes everything back down to where it is okay to be and feel comfortable. The ice information only for 2 seconds on the hand. If it's a wet cloth, you don't have a timing. It's can do it for as long as you wish, is stopping the messy information, racing thoughts that are filling your child's brain and causing the anxiety. So suddenly, poof, the brain is processing the temperature, and the smell of strawberry increases dopamine, meaning control of movement, meaning feeling good, being in a good mood. So use that instantly, and you may have to need it a few times. Do not tell the child stop it. It's of course a normal reaction, but it shows your kid that if every time he does that, he gets your attention and they want it. So I would also recommend remove everything that could be swallowed and get stuck. Typically in classroom, this is very well done. There are sort of measurement tools, and some things cannot be in the classroom with small children. And if it is at home, maybe go around so that you pick up everything and you don't have to be so worried. Now for other things that will not be swallowed but need to go to the mouth, there are several good news about it. One of them is that mouthing and chewing and biting object is one of the steps of speech development. So it could be where your child is, so that is good. You still do the strawberry and ice. You take the child on your knees and you whisper. Maybe you tell him a story. You put words and communication in that moment. It could be a problem with toothache. Most kids on the spectrum will not know that they are in pain. So if your child is around 7 years old, he is growing his molars, he will not or she will not tell you. So checking is a good idea. Check pain, but it's probably anxiety. So strawberry and ice, cuddle, story, and then keep observing. It should decrease if it is about anxiety.
Got some really good questions in the Q&A, but I think I'll save them for after the slides that we've prepared.
Okay. Sorry.
I changed my mind as I was saying. I actually meant to read the questions, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Too late.
Especially if we want to give Petra or Mary some.
Well, I would like Mary to tell us what happened the day they visited the school, because that was really worrying for the whole family. That was his first time in school. So they went for a visit. And Mary, tell us what happened. He ran away screaming.
No, we were
No.
so happily surprised. I brought him to the classroom, and his teacher bent down to him and looked him in the eye, and he looked at her, and it was just beautiful eye contact and engagement. And she welcomed him, and she said, this is our classroom. And he went around looking like a little toddler, looking at all the things in the classroom, taking it all in. And I was just surprised that his self-awareness had progressed enough to get to that point where he was engaged in his environment. He just took it all in.
Yeah, and that was great. And we worked specifically on that. And so it was wonderful to discover that how well he was enjoying. And one of his favorite activities is one of our exercise for self-awareness, which is the teeter-totter, right? He's completely independent on it, right, Mary?
Yes, he loves it. He loves it. So it starts out he's resistant to trying new things. So we make a big deal. We give him lots of praise. We say, go, Quinn, go, and we encourage him on. And after a few days, he's just doing it on his own. He loves it. And he'll find his balance, and he'll go on that teeter-totter and several times a day.
Yeah. So, Petra, how did you see Alex's social skill develop, or his self-awareness after doing all the work, all the activities, touch and smell, and all the games? What made you feel, oh, we are onto something now?
Alec became more open and more willing to try new things, because his common phrase was always no thank you, no thank you. He was very polite, but it was just no to anything new, and his interests were so limited. We noticed right away, like early on with maps, because I think we started when he was around 5 or 6 years old. One thing that did increase quickly was his sleep. He went from 8 hours of sleep a night to 10 hours of sleep a night. And that consistently stayed forever. He still sleeps great. And he in school, he's just so happy. He's just a happy guy. And at this point in his life, he's so willing to try new things. He his awareness has grown in that he observes what others are doing, and that usually was never his thing. He wouldn't want to mimic some movement that somebody else is doing, or try something that somebody else is doing. And we noticed that with the maps, he just is more willing to try it, and like even on his own, and he'll want a turn and request a turn, and he's far more engaging, and his language is limited, of conversation language is limited, but he really loves people and really loves to be around people. And I think that answers, does that answer?
Yes,
the
yeah,
question?
absolutely. And what I like in what you describe is the joy to be with people, which is so difficult for children at first when they start school. And those steps of development that you have here on the screen are what is needed for social skills to even exist. Before you are able to acknowledge that someone is in front of you, you have to know you're here. And quite often for our kids, it is something that is not possible. If there is something new to be done, they want to be holding somebody and extending their body into someone else. They suffer from the environment as more an attack on their well-being. Their sensory processing is causing them pain. And in the case of soft touch, we have studies showing that kids and adults on the spectrum have a high sensitivity on the forearm and can feel pain when somebody touches them nicely, which is something that happens really all the time at school. Hey, right? So we want to build up self-awareness, improve social, sensory processing, making being with others a joy, like Petra described for Alec. He is happy.
Hey,
So
you had a couple of other ideas, but it's 2 minutes to 2 o'clock. Would you like to go into Q&A, or
yes, yeah, maybe
talked about reading stories and school corner and food. Is there one that you want to cover?
Well, definitely the reading stories part, because with all the parents I work with, I realized that yes, if we ask this, yes, I do read stories, and when I ask a little bit more details, the kid is on their knees and the kid is shuffling through the pages. It's a fun moment that you want to keep. It's not reading stories. I have one mom in India who is inventing stories every day. She has great imagination. But what we want is adding to the words, the vocabulary that is around our kid all day. If you pay real attention to everything that your child hears, it's not really conversational. It is more information. Okay, get in the line, put your shoes on, time to brush your teeth. So reading stories, even if you feel your child is not listening or not understanding, take the bed. Take a few minutes. Initially, the child will be surprised, may want to go somewhere or turn around in the bed, but you will find what all parents have found until now. And I spoke to one yesterday. The child starts to increase his own vocabulary. He's going to be using a word that he heard last month and was pretty but didn't mean anything, hearing it a few times because in a book, you read other people's words, right? Not your own usual. So do it. That will improve communication and understanding at school.
Okay. It's now 2:00. Thank you everybody for. We're going to go and answer the last 3 questions, but I wanted to thank you for attending with us today. And if you have to go somewhere, totally understand. Next, so the question, I'll start from the bottom here, so quick and easy one. When you said about settling the brain with strawberry and ice, is this the fruit or the scent?
It is the scent. Strawberries, in fact, unfortunately, don't really smell the ones that you buy at the market. If you grow your own and you sort of mush it, it will smell beautiful, but it doesn't last. And it's really inconvenient. You can have strawberries in your purse only so many days in the year. So obtain a lovely smell of strawberries somewhere. And I have a suggestion that is really inexpensive and easy, which is a baby toothpaste. There is a brand that makes
shampoos, hand lotions, strawberry scented things.
Yeah, candles. If it smells beautiful, it will work.
So back to getting kids to stop doing things that they want to do. I've got 2 interesting ones here. One says, my 4-year-old is eating bugs. If I say no, he'll do it faster before I can reach him. How can I make him understand it's not safe?
Well, he is 4 and he doesn't care if it's safe. And this is a question that touches my heart because when we lived in Tahiti, my daughter was crawling on the floor. And we're not talking US bugs, okay? We're talking tropical bugs.
Ones, yep.
And they fly. Don't
was
get me
Kelly the
started.
one that would slide the door to crush the bugs before eating them?
Yeah, she had a recipe altogether. So because she had done a few before I was fast enough to stop her, I knew she was not going to die. So my solution was locking the balcony door and making sure we had as little bugs as possible. If your kid is eating them, you are right. Do not say no. You are right. You just said it, and I said it earlier. The more no you say, the faster the kid is. So divert his attention, give him something delicious and tell him, well, every time you want something crunchy, I'll have crackers.
We have a whole webinar on safety. We used crossing the street without looking as an example of something that that is not safe, that is guaranteed not safe. You can argue bugs, that don't taste great and some of them poisonous, I guess. So I would recommend that you go to our website, mendability.com/webinars. And one of those webinars is going to be something, why does my child not feel safety, or something like this. Recognize safety. Go there. It's a 45 minutes just for that. The next question, does that work with kids who suck fingers? I think it's stuck fingers. It actually says stuck fingers, but I imagine it's about sucking fingers. Catherine, if you want to clarify, I'm going to go with sucking fingers. Do you have a magic way of teaching kids not to suck fingers?
Well, it all depends. But I work presently on the Platinum Plan with a little girl with Rett syndrome. And one of the characteristics of those children is to put their hands in their mouth and really, really seriously sucking on the fingers. So that is the worst case, of course, of sucking fingers. But what we do is having a lot of fun information to her hands and to her fingers, and then giving her opportunity to develop and use those various fun activities. The latest to show you that it doesn't cost money to find great ideas to help children is brushing her little fingertips with an electric toothbrush. And Mom said, I'm using mine. I don't want her to be offended. And we have done so many activities, and parents who do mandability, like temperature, like ice cubes. Basically, you want your child to be finding interest in the hands besides sucking. However, a lot of children do not have, thankfully, Rett syndrome, and the sucking is more about comfort, about soothing anxiety, so that you don't want to stop it before you solve the anxiety reason, cause. So definitely strawberry and ice when you feel that your child is so intensely into his anxiety, doing a lot of soft touch, like we mentioned, gentle claw and smell, lots of smelling of lemon, working with your kid at finding that it's possible to come and get cuddles when he feels really bad. So I would assume that this is an anxiety issue because it's a boy. Very few boys have Retts, and it is about something that you can solve with time, tenderness, patience, and not saying don't do it.
All right, that's the end of the questions. Anybody, do you think any last words from Mary or Petra?
Well, I would definitely have them both tell us if they feel that without mandability, they would be at the same place. And I already am pushing for the answer, but hearing moms who have taken the time and grandma in the case of Mary. So Mary, tell us, do you feel that maybe with patience you would have gotten there, or do you feel it really was important?
I feel it extremely important. I did not realize the amount of development that occurs in a little brain when we're going through mendability. And so I've been able to see progress all along the way. And we record the progress, of course, but to see it just reveal is so it's hopeful. It's just really wonderful for Quinn because his world is just opening up. He's being able to learn and explore and just really engage in his world more than he did when we started back in January. Much more. He's really blossoming.
Oh, thank you for those words. Very encouraging for parents listening to us. Petra, you have a longer exposure to sensory enrichment. What's your feeling for Alec getting into adulthood? How much did that help, or is it still helping him?
Yes, it helped him immensely, and it's still helping him. And I know that the sleep that he needed when he was younger, once he started to get that was greatly such an improvement, and that I attribute all to mendability and all of the calming mechanisms with the scents and the smells and the development of that has been so instrumental for him. And like I said, he still gravitates to it. He knows he can self-regulate. He knows that he needs the orchestral music, he listens to it every day on his own. He finds a quiet spot in his room, and he has like the sense, and he does that even on his own. And vanilla for years was his go-to, and he would want it on his sprayed on his shirt before school. The idea of being calm, of my being calm, and like you said, of not being rushed. And that's not my go-to. I'm like rushed, and but I realize how vastly important that is for Alec and every child, that our voice is calm, that we talk slowly, that we praise and give encouragement. All of that I learned through you, and that has been so instrumental for him. But each time, like I said, each time we do the exercises, there's progress, and there's more of his brain opening up. And I know we wouldn't be here where we are today without Mendability. So I can't recommend it enough to people. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much, so much. And well, hopefully parents who have listened, been touched by the sincere words of parents who just see it happen, take a few minutes every day. So I hope to see you on Zoom or somewhere, and come and work with me, and we can have your children just soar through school happily.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope this was really useful for you. If you want to reach Claudie or me, just type kim@mendability.com or claudie@mendability.com, or go on our website. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank
Thank-
you.